Hi students, welcome back to the next video of this chapter, and in this video we will cover some topics and exercises related to this chapter. In the previous video we understood the last topic that we covered was public interest litigation, and in that topic we understood that this particular public interest litigation was basically introduced in the country in order to help the underprivileged section of the society who cannot access the courts because of some reasons. The reasons were the lack of knowledge, uh, because a lot of money is required in order to fight the case, and a lot of time is also required. Now we'll understand these three reasons through an example thoroughly, right? So there is an example of Hashimpura massacre, under which the families of 43 Muslims were killed in Meerut, Uttar Pradesh in 1987 by the armed forces. And during this all massacre, after the killing, after they were being killed, their families went to get justice in the courts in 1987. But can you even imagine when did they get the justice? They got justice after 31 years in 2018. Yeah. In 1987, the massacre happened wherein the families of 43 Muslims were being killed, and they went to the court to fight for their, to get justice in 1987, wherein they got justice in 2018. This shows that how long the cases go on, and the reason why the cases go long for so many years is because the cases are so much in this country while the judges are very less. So this creates a lot of pressure on the judges, and this is why the cases take so long to get solved, and the justice is served after so many long years. And this is quite evident that the poor people cannot invest so much time into fighting a case, right? As we discussed in the previous video, that they cannot invest so much time in fighting for the case, and this is why public interest litigation was introduced in the country. Okay, so there is a story time here, wherein the story time will basically explain you that. All right. So through this story time, we'll understand as to how PIL works in the country. All right. So there was a time when there came a drought in Rajasthan and Odisha, and what happened now, that a lot of their crops were destroyed, and that led to a shortage of food in these two states, Rajasthan and Odisha. There was so much shortage in both these states, while there was surplus grains in the other states. Let's say that there was surplus grains in Punjab and Haryana, while there was a huge shortage of food in Rajasthan and Odisha. So what happened, that the people, the citizens of Rajasthan and Odisha were very disturbed, since there was a huge shortage, while there was an excessive grains in Haryana and Punjab. They were so excessive that sometimes they were being wasted and eaten by the rats. So what happened now? On the behalf of the people of the Rajasthan and Odisha, there was an organization which is People's Union for Civil Liberties. This is the name of the organization, which wrote an PIL on the behalf of the citizens of these two states to the court, and mentioning all the problems of the huge shortage of food in these states. They wrote the PIL to the court, and the court made a decision in the favor of these citizens and told the government of Rajasthan and Odisha that it is their duty, that it is a duty of the state government of Rajasthan and Odisha to give food, to provide food to the citizens of their state, to provide employment to the citizens of the state, and to provide a good environment, safe environment, and basic health amenities to the citizens of this state. So this is how we understood that how does PIL works. Now in this case here in this story, we understood that there was a group of people which were facing an acute shortage of food, while there was an organization which validated their problem, wrote a letter to the Supreme Court, which is known as the public interest litigation, on the behalf of these people, and that letter went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court considered their problem and told the state government of these two states that it is their duty to provide food, to provide the basic amenities to the citizens of their state, right? So this is how PIL works, that an individual or an organization, apart from the people that are suffering, an organization and other individual can also write an PIL, file a PIL on the behalf of the suffering community. Okay. Okay. So This we understood that what happened in the when there was a lot of acute shortage of food in Rajasthan and Odisha. Now, when they were being told that it is their duty, it is the duty of the state government to provide the basic amenities to the state, to the citizens of their state, there was a scheme that was introduced in this state, that was midday meal scheme for children. Now, what does the scheme means? The scheme means that in any government school, when the children comes to study, they will be given lunch in the lunchtime. Like we all have break in the school, the lunchtime in the school. They will not bring their food from their homes. Since there is a huge shortage of food, the food will be given in the school itself in the lunch break. During the lunch break, the school will provide the lunch to the students. Now, this helped a lot. This helped the students to bring them to the school, since we all know that you know in order to get food, in the lalach of getting free lunch, a lot of students started coming to the school. And when they started getting the lunch, obviously the literacy, when they started coming to the school just to get the lunch, the literacy rate automatically rose up to a level. The health of the children started to get better. They started to get food. So basic needs were getting fulfilled by this one particular scheme, midday meal scheme. So this is what I'm trying to explain you through this example to you guys, that how PIL works, right? And in the previous example, we understood that why PIL is necessary, because not everybody has an access to the court. Since it takes long years to get justice, PIL is very important for the underprivileged part of the society, which cannot access to the courts, which do not have the sufficient resources, knowledge, education, time, and money to go and fight the cases in the courts. This is why PIL gets introduced in the country, and this is how it works in the betterment of the society. Okay, moving forward. So there is another case between Olga Tellers versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. This is a very interesting case wherein the Bombay Municipal Corporation said that the slum dwellers, the people that live on the pavement of the roads, on the footpaths, basically people, you might have seen that there are some people who live on the footpaths, since they do not have any other place to go. They don't have the money to afford a house. They don't have the money to even make a small house in a village. Also, they are surviving on the roads. And what did Bombay Municipal Corporation did? They asked all the slum dwellers to move from there. They did not made another accommodation from them. They did not even told them that okay, you can go from here to there. They just said that you need to not sit here, you need to not live here, you need to go from here. They did not have any other accommodation. Obviously, we all know that they're surviving, they're living on the roads because they do not have anywhere else to go. And what did Bombay Municipal Corporation did? They said that nobody, no slum dweller will be allowed to live on the footpath. Right now, after this statement, after hearing the statement by the Bombay Municipal Corporation, the Supreme Court made the judgment in 1985 saying that right to life is not just living, it's not just taking birth and just living. It requires some basic amenities, it requires good health, it requires basic health facilities, it requires educational facility, it requires a good home, it requires at least 2 meals of the day. And the people who live on the footpath do not have any of these, and so it is the duty of the government to provide them all these basic amenities. And so the Supreme Court made a judgment in 1985 that right to life is not just mere existence, mere animal existence. Like animals live, they live wherever they want to, they eat whatever they find. This is not just life for a human being. Right to life comprises of many things, which is health facilities, educational facilities, accommodation, basic healthy accommodation, safe environment to live in. And so what Supreme Court did, it linked the right to livelihood to that of right to life. Right to livelihood means basically right to livelihood includes uh, accommodation to live in, healthy place and a safe environment, health benefits, health facilities, educational facilities. And it said that right to life, in case right to life is not like if you, no matter what, if you're living on the footpath and if you get killed, murdered by someone, your right to life will be violated. Right to life will also be violated if you won't be given a good place to live in. good food to eat. And so it linked right to life with right to livelihood. And so the government started making some yojanas wherein they started making houses for these kind of people, for the underprivileged section of the people. So this is how the Supreme Court made a judgment and said that right to life is not just a mere existence. It's not just surviving. It includes a lot of things. It includes the right to livelihood, and right to livelihood includes health benefits, it includes educational benefits, it includes two meals, at least 2 meals of the day, bare minimum 2 meals of the day, and good accommodation, not even good, but still an accommodation to live in. And it started making these, small houses for these underprivileged section of the people. They started taking action against working for these people. So this was Olga Tellers versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. Okay, so let's go on to some exercises. The first question says that you read that one of the main functions of the judiciary is upholding the law and enforcing the fundamental rights. Okay, why do you think an independent judiciary is necessary to carry out this important function? I hope that you remember that what is an independent judiciary. Independent judiciary refers to the kind of functioning wherein none of the organ of the government, that is legislature and executive, interferes in the working, functioning, and responsibilities of the other organ of the government, that is judiciary. So independent judiciary means that none of the organs, neither legislature nor executive, will interfere in the functioning of the judiciary, and nor judiciary will interfere in the functioning of the legislature and executive. So this makes judiciary an independent organ. And the question says, and why do you think an independent judiciary is necessary to carry out this important function? Now, the function is upholding the law and enforcing the fundamental rights. So, it is very important for the independent judiciary to carry out this important function, since this function safeguards the fundamental right of the people. As in how? So, in case that there is a conflict between two citizens, so the two citizens can go to the court, file a petition against each other, can fight in the court, can get the justice by the judge. And here, where whatever the judge takes the decision, it will take the decision in a way that will safeguard the fundamental rights of the citizen, that will safeguard the fundamental right of the citizen, which is asking for the relief, as we understood in the previous example, wherein the judge gives the relief after making a decision. So, in a similar way, uh, this function is very important since it safeguard the protection of the safeguard the fundamental rights of the people. It protects the citizens from their law, from getting their fundamental right violated, right? And it gives serves justice to the citizens in case that they feel that their fundamental right has been violated. So, in conclusion, we could say that this function is very important to be carried out by the independent judiciary since it serves justice to the people, it safeguards the fundamental rights of the people, it gives people a legal protection when they come to the court to fight for the case and ask for the justice. Okay, move on. Reread the list of the fundamental rights provided in Chapter 1. How do you think that the right to constitutional remedies connects to the judicial review? Alright. So, I hope that you remember the fundamental rights, and one of the fundamental rights was the right to constitutional remedy. Let me recall you what is called right to constitutional remedy. So basically, right to constitutional remedy says that in case that any citizen feels that any of their fundamental right has been violated, they have the right to go to the court and ask for the justice by filing a petition against a citizen that has violated their fundamental right. So let me recall you all the fundamental rights: right to equality, right to freedom, right to follow the religion that we wish to, right to construct, right to educational, right of educational and to follow the any educational rights or cultural rights, or right against exploitation. And the last right was right against the constitution, right to constitutional remedies. Now this right to constitutional remedy says that if any of these fundamental rights that I have told you about is violated, if they feel that any of the other citizen is trying to violate their fundamental rights, this particular right to constitutional remedies gives them the right to go to the court and ask for justice in the court by the judge by filing a petition against the citizen who is trying to violate their fundamental right. And what the idea of judicial review means? Judicial review means that the judiciary, the court, is responsible for checking the laws that are not in the interest of the people, that are that are invalid, for that are not for in the right intention, that are not made for the right intention of the people, that are not in the favor, not in the interest of the people. These such kinds of laws could be declared null or void by the courts. The court has so much power that if in case that they feel that um, there is a law that has been implemented in the country which is not doing the betterment for the society, which is against the betterment of the society, they can make that particular law null or void. Now, what do I mean by making the particular law null or void? That is abolishing that law in the country, removing that law entirely from the country. So, how does right to constitutional remedy connect to the idea of judicial review? Now, the both of two are for the good cause and for the same cause. Now, understand this how. Right to constitutional remedy gives the citizens the right to fight for themselves in the courts in case they feel that their fundamental right has been violated. And what does the idea of judicial review says? That the judiciary has the right to abolish any law in case that they feel that they are not in the interest or the betterment of the society or violates anyone's fundamental right. When we say that they are not for the betterment of the society, we indirectly mean that they somehow violate the fundamental right of the citizens. And thus, this idea of judicial review and the right to constitutional remedies are interconnected. Therefore, it is quite evident that if right to constitutional remedy also ensures that this fundamental right of the citizens are not violated, and the idea of judicial review also ensures that the right or the fundamental rights of the citizens are not violated, therefore, it is quite evident that the both are interconnected. I hope that you understood what I'm trying to tell you, that right to constitutional remedy is nothing but the right that the citizens have been given to go to the court in case that they feel that their fundamental right has been violated. And what does the idea of judicial review says? That the judiciary, the court, has been given so much right that in case that they feel that a law has been implemented in the country which violates the fundamental right of the citizens, it has the right to abolish that particular law. So basically, both of the rights and idea of judicial review works for the same cause of ensuring that the fundamental right of the citizens are not violated. Thus, they both are interconnected. Moving on. In the following illustration, label each tire with the judgments given by the various courts in the Sudha Goyal case. Check the responses with others in the class. Alright. So, we all remember the Sudha Goyal's case, right? Wherein she was burnt, and her family, Sudha Goyal's family, claimed that Sudha Goyal's husband and mother-in-law um, has burned her. She herself is not burned. This is not by accident, but they have burned her. They have tortured her. And so when the Sudha Goyal's family filed the case against the mother-in-law and husband of Sudha Goyal, they went to the district court. The district court made a decision that Sudha Goyal's husband and mother-in-law will um, get sentenced to death. But her husband, Lakshman, and the mother-in-law were not satisfied by the decision. And so, according to the appellate system, since you are allowed to go to the next court if you're not satisfied by the lower court, they went to the high court again. And in the high court, they were being set free. That the decision made by the court was that they haven't done anything, they are not guilty, and they haven't tortured, and so they were set free. All the punishment were taken back. They were not being sentenced to death. They were not being declared sentenced to death. In fact, they were they were declared free as if they have not done anything. They were declared that they are guilt free. They haven't done anything to Sudha Goyal. So punishments were taken back by the High Court. Now, what happened in Supreme Court? So, as you guys remember, that there was an Indian Federation of the Women Lawyers who filed the petition against. Again, they filed the petition against the husband of Sudha Goyal and mother-in-law. And so again, the case came into Supreme Court, since now the family of Sudha Goyal was not satisfied. So the case went up to Supreme Court. And what Supreme Court made the decision? Supreme Court took the decision that they will not be either sentenced to death, neither they will be set free. They will be imprisoned in the jail. So they were put in the jail. So this happened in the case of Sudha Goyal. Okay. Why do you think the introduction of public interest litigation in the 1980s is a significant step in ensuring access to justice for all? Okay. All right. So, as I told you, that public interest litigation was basically introduced for the unprivileged part of the society, that is, the poor people who cannot access to the courts because of some reasons. And the reasons were because we understood through an example that it takes many years in the court. If you're fighting the case, it takes many years to get the justice. And the poor people, since we know that they do not have so much time to fight for their case in the court, it requires a lot of money. They do not even have the money to afford to fight a case. It requires a lot of knowledge, education to know the entire paperwork which is going in the case. So it becomes very difficult for the poor people to access the court. And so it's quite evident that but this public interest litigation basically helps these poor people to get their problems solved, to get their problems heard by the parliament, by the Supreme Court, by the High Court. And so therefore, this public interest litigation helps in giving justice to everyone, as it helps even the poor people to get their problems heard, even if not through the process of filing the petition and fighting through the case, but through public interest litigation. But their problems are getting heard by the court, their problems are getting solved by the court. And so this is what we require. And so justice is being served to the poor people as well. So therefore, we can say that public interest litigation is a significant step in ensuring that access to justice for all, since the poor people who were not being heard earlier due to some reasons of time, money, lack of education, are now being heard through the process of public interest litigation. All right, moving on. Okay, so reread excerpts from the judgment of the Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation case. Now, write in your own words what the judges meant when they said that the right to livelihood was a part of the right to life. As we understood the example, the case of Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, and we get to know that. Bombay Municipal Corporation asked all the slum dwellers to move from the footpath, and they were not allowed to live on the footpath. But their plight was very serious. The plight of the slum dwellers was very serious, since they do not have anywhere else to go than the footpath. That is why they are living on the footpath, right? They do not have the money to even eat. They do not have the money to have their own house. That is why they're living on the road. That is why they're begging. That is why they're cleaning the city, right? So to earn some money. And we all know that right to life is one of the fundamental rights that have been provided by the government to all the citizens of the country. And right to life does not just mean that okay, you have taken birth in the country. Now nobody is going to murder you. Nobody is going to violate your very basic fundamental right. But you will be asked to evict. Yeah, you will be asked to leave the foot you will be asked to leave the footpath. In case that you're living on it, you will be asked to go from there, even though they know that you do not have any other place to go. So, right to life does not only mean that you have a mere existence in the country, just you are surviving in the country, you do not have the house, you do not have the food to eat, you do not have the essential resources that are required to live properly, right? It's just that you're living and nobody's allowed to murder you. And in case somebody tries to murder you, that means that somebody has violated your fundamental right, and then you go to the court and file a petition. That is not just right to life. Right to life is much more than that. Right to life includes many basic amenities like health amenities, educational amenities, food amenities, even accommodation amenities, house amenities. And so the government itself should take the steps in order to ensure that all these amenities are met for the poor people, for the unprivileged part of the society. So this is what the Supreme Court did. It told that right to livelihood is a part of the right to life. In right to life, it does not really mean that nobody is allowed to murder you, nobody is allowed to kill you, nobody is allowed to, violate your fundamental right. This is not just a right to life. Right to life has a lot than just merely existing like an animal. It is much more than that. It is living properly. Then right to life does not say just live. Right to life says that live properly with all the basic amenities, and that is why it is said that right to livelihood is a part of the right to life. Since livelihood means earning, a livelihood means that you have a house, you have a source of income, you have food to eat. This is all it is, which is included in livelihood. And so, right to livelihood is a major part of right to life, since right to life is not just merely existing, but living properly through all the basic amenities of life. Okay, moving on. What do you understand by the words justice delayed is justice denied? Okay, so I hope that you remember the example that we discussed in the previous slide, wherein there were 43 families of Muslims which were killed by the armed forces. And when they went to get justice in 1987, they were given justice after 31 years, right? This is evidently saying that justice is being delayed. And there it was proclaimed while they were fighting for the justice, it was proclaimed that justice, when it is delayed, it is equal to justice not being given. That you are giving justice to people after 31 years of fighting the case. That is equivalent to not even giving the justice. Sometimes the case is so much worse that a person has filed a petition in the court, and the cases are so much and the judges are so less that their you know their chance of fighting the case in the court comes after so many years that they've even died. After that, their chance of fighting the case comes after that they get the justice. Now, for example, let's say that there was a person who filed the petition in the court while he was 50 years old, and he got the justice after 20 years old. See, 20-year-old got justice after he died. So sometimes this happens, and this is not even justice. Even though you are given justice after 20 years, the person who wanted justice, who was fighting for the case, has gone now. So is it even important that now you are given the justice? It is equivalent to not giving the justice, right? Justice, when given, is only equal important. It is validated when it is given on the spot, when it is given within the span of 1 year or 2 years, and not 30 and 40 and 20 years, when the person themselves have they have lost all the hope, they have even themselves died. What is the uh, you know use of giving justice after 20-30 years when the people have themselves lost all the hope? So this is quite evident that in that case justice was delayed for 31 years. And people say that if justice is given after so long, after 30 years, 40 years, it is equivalent to not giving justice. If you are given justice after 30 years, it is equivalent to that you're not even given justice, because justice is not given after 30, 40 years after the case has filed, yeah, after the case has been filed. If a murder has taken place in 2000, and the murderer is being jailed, is being imprisoned, has been given the punishment after 40 years, will it even the justice, will it even hold that much importance? Now, there was a rape case that you might have all know that you might not all know about. There was a rape case in Delhi, and the rape case happened 15 years back. The justice that her mother got, that her family got, was after so many years. The girl that wanted the justice died, all right? And all of the people even forget, apart from her family. And now the justice, even if it's served, it doesn't hold that much importance. So this is what we're trying to say, that if justice is given after so many years, it is equivalent to not giving the justice. Because the importance of giving or having the justice when the case has happened near to that, then it holds the importance. If you're giving justice after 30, 40 years after the person who has filed the petition has died, what is the importance of that? That is equivalent to not giving justice. So this is what we mean by justice delayed is justice denied. This brings us to the end of the exercises. Now we will move on to the quick reversion for this chapter. And the very first point says that in India, to enforce the rule of law, we have a judicial system, which is the organ of the state. Now we all know that there are three organs: legislature, executive, and judiciary. Judiciary is responsible for ensuring that there is rule of law. Now, what do we mean by rule of law? Rule of law means that nobody is above the law and everybody follows the law and laws are applied to each and every citizen. And in case that anybody violates the law, he or she will be punished. So judiciary is responsible for ensuring that each and every person is following the laws and nobody is violating the laws. Okay. The second point says the important functions of the judicial system are dispute resolution, judicial review, and upholding the law and enforcing the fundamental rights. Now, what does this function state? The very first function, that is dispute resolution, says that in case there is a conflict between citizens or state and government or state and citizens, the judiciary, the courts, the Supreme Court, High Court, District Court, and the subordinate court, any of these courts are responsible for resolving the conflict that has happened between, if it has happened between the citizens, the Supreme Court, the High Court, or any of the courts is responsible for resolving the conflicts that has happened between any of the entities. It could be between two citizens, it could be between the state and the government, it could be between citizen and state, it could be between any of the entities. All right. The second function is judicial review. Now, the second most important function is judicial review. Now, under this important function, what happens is that the judiciary is responsible for ensuring that all the laws are in favor, are for the betterment of the society, and it does not violate the fundamental rule. It basically is responsible for checking that none of the laws that are implemented in the country are violating any of the fundamental rights of the citizens. And in case they find that this law is violating the fundamental right, the judiciary has the power to even abolish that right, to evict that to abolish that law in the country. The very third function of the judicial system is upholding the law and enforcing the fundamental right. Now, what do we mean by this? In case that there is a conflict between two citizens, as we understood in the first function, that disputes resolution. That means in case there is a conflict, the judiciary is responsible for resolving the conflict. But how? Now here, the citizens who have a conflict between each other have the right to go and access to the court and ask for the justice. What they will do is file a petition against each other, and they will fight a case in the court, and the judge will make a decision in the favor. Judge will make a very unbiased decision considering the problem. So this is how the judge safeguards the fundamental right and upholds the law. The third point says that in India there are three different levels of court: district court, high court, and Supreme Court. Now, as we understood that there are three types of court: Supreme Court, High Court, District Court, and there is a fourth one also, which is a subordinate court, which is a type of the district court. Moving forward, the judgment declared by the Supreme Court is binding on all the courts, as it is the apex court in the country. Now, we also read that there is an appellate system in the country, which means that if in case there are two citizens who have a conflict and they go to the district court, the judge makes a decision and it does not satisfy one of the party. It does not satisfy one of the citizen, is not happy with the decision. So that particular citizen has the right to go and file the petition now in the High Court, since they were not satisfied with the decision made in the district court. Now the citizen can file a petition of the same case against the same citizen in the High Court and fight the case again in the High Court. Now, for instance, let's assume that the same citizen is now satisfied in High Court, but the other citizen that he's fighting against is now not satisfied by the decision of the High Court. Now they can also go to the Supreme Court, as we understood in the example of Sudha Goyal, wherein they first appealed in the district court, then they went to the High Court, then they went to the Supreme Court. In the same manner, any of the citizens, if in case they feel that the decision, they does not get satisfied by the decision, they can go up to Supreme Court. But Supreme Court is the apex, it is the highest court, and whatever decision it will make, it has to be followed by the citizens. The fourth point says that Supreme Court is headed by the Chief Justice and 25 other judges. They're appointed by the President of the India. So whosoever are the judges of the Supreme Courts are basically appointed by the President, and the Chief Justice is the head of the Supreme Court, which is amongst all the judges. Let's say that there are 25 judges in Supreme Court, so Chief Justice will be among those 25 only, and all the judges are appointed by the President of India. Okay. So in the Sudha Goyal case, the appellate system of judiciary was used to overturn judgments by lower courts. Yeah, so this is what we just understood, that in an appellate system, people have an access to go and up to Supreme Court if in case that they feel that the decisions are biased and they're not satisfied with the decision, they can go up to Supreme Court. But Supreme Court is the apex court, it is the highest court, and you have to follow whatever Supreme Court does or makes the decision. Whatever Supreme Court will make the decision, the people will have to follow that particular decision because that is the highest court. Okay. Okay, so separation of power. It means that the powers of the state and the powers of the judiciary are separate. Yeah. So we also understood that there is an independent judiciary. That means, since we know that there are three organs, legislature, executive, and judiciary, even though there are three organs of the government, still none of the organs have the right to interfere in each of its functioning. Right? Neither judiciary nor legislature and not even the legislature have the right to interfere in the functioning of each other's organs. The legislature and the executive are not allowed to interfere in the functioning of the judiciary. Judiciary is not allowed to interfere in the functioning. Judiciary can, in case judiciary feels that the members of legislature and executive are not following the rules properly, judiciary can interfere. But the legislature and the executive cannot interfere in the functioning of the judiciary, which makes judiciary an independent organ. Independent judiciary, it means that the judiciary is not under the government and does not act on its behalf. PIL. It stands for public interest litigation. It has been devised to facilitate justice. Now, as I told you, that PIL, that is public interest litigation, which is basically made in the country, introduced in the country in order to help the poor people which cannot access to the courts due to the lack of education, the lack of knowledge, the lack of money, the lack of time. They cannot access to the Supreme Court. And so public interest litigation has been introduced in the country so that their plight, their problem can also be heard by the court, and a solution to their problem can also be made so that justice is served to each and every one. Okay. So this brings us to the end of the chapter. We'll connect in the next video. By then, thank you so much for joining me on Study.